sharing in our time together. So without further ado, we're going to pass it over to Jade. Take it away with our active movement and meditation, Jade. Thank you all for being here.
Hi guys, welcome. I just started recording. So if you're comfortable with that, you can leave your screens on. If you would prefer to ever take the camera off, you're totally welcome to do that as well. Hang on, I just want to make sure I read this message. Okay, cool.
I also asked you, I'm sorry to interrupt, so that we could see you lead the movement. Would you be okay with stopping the screen share?
Yeah. Should I pin me or something, or does that matter? I don't know how to do that. We'll just leave it like that. Is that okay, or should I pin?
So
yes,
we can change our view. If you go to the top where all the little squares are, it can change the view, but the default is whoever is talking shows up in the middle.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys for your love. Okay, cool. I'm going to invite you to stand. If you don't want to stand, you could sit in a chair, any type of chair, and I can see me, so I'll assume you can see me. And you're just going to start in what feels like a hip's distance of your feet, so they're about 6 to 8 inches apart. Kind of get interested in the floor beneath your feet by wiggling the toes, maybe rocking from left to right foot. And you can change your stride at any time. So I'm going to offer only 4 to 5 movements in this time we have together, but you can adapt or create within that because these are very basic structural positions. The first thing is just going to be to reach your hands up over your head or away from the body in any manner. Yeah, just reach away from the body. Hold this for a moment, just thinking about the whole architecture of yourself, and then just drop the hands back towards the body. Good. Now I'm going to make this a counted thing right away. So reach your hands up over the head or somewhere away from the body for about 3 seconds of count. You're going to hold stationary like a statue for 1 second. And then slowly bring the hands back down to yourself or the earth for a count of about 6. I'm going to count you now. You can add an inhale on the reach up if you want. So you could inhale, reach your hands up and away from the body. 3, 2, 1. Hold like a statue. And then exhale out the mouth or nose for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, that's it. Let's do it again 3 more times. Inhale, stretch up and away. Maybe you reach behind you if it feels good. Hold for a count of 1. And then exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good, 2 more together. Inhale, stretch away. 3, 2, 1. Active in the fingertips, even the pinky is reaching. Hold, exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait. 1 more round. Inhale, reach up. 2, 3. Hold your breath. And then exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait. Good. Close your eyes if comfortable and just get a sense of your feet. Spreading out the toes again. Reasserting your impression or your deliberate attempt to be with the floor beneath you. And then I'm going to ask you to widen your stance even more. So now we're talking like 2 to 3 feet away the feet are. And if you can, angle the heels in. So externally rotating the hips like you're about to do some sumo wrestling here. And you're going to take one hand. I'm going to start with my right hand away from the body, stretching through my elbow and palm facing forward. You can open the heart and stretch here. The legs are starting to bend a little bit, with just a touch. And maybe you look past the open hand. See if you can kind of feel your intrinsic power through the whole center of the body. And then you're going to take that open hand and just touch very gently the opposite leg, thigh, knee joint, almost like you're gently putting on lotion. You might bend or rock from side to side here, touching the skin, the musculature, and the joints in that opposite side as you warm the entire body. Okay, let's do that again. So slowly straighten up and then open the hand to the side, arms straighten, and so are the legs. Maybe you take a big in-breath here. And when you exhale, you bring yourself sliding across the center line, like at an angle, and touch the opposite side here. So those are 2 movements. Maybe you do them on your own pace just a couple more times. Opening and stretching. If you want, you could look up and straighten and push the hips forward. And then slowly coming down across the body and touch yourself on the opposite side with both or one hand, rocking from hip to hip. Getting a sense of where your body is at today. From the chest to the hips. Let's do one more. Good. Listening to the feedback of your body. And coming back slowly to center. We'll do the opposite side. If you want, you can reestablish your footing once again to find the floor beneath your feet and take the opposite hand away from the body. Maybe gaze moves past it. Hopeful and kind of certain of your future is good. Inhale here. Open the heart, strong in-breath, strong lungs. Exhale, cross the body. Find the hip, find the knee, and just sort of rock from side to side. You might find that your knees are opening. And if you were to look down, the knee is right over the ankle joint and it's shifting back and forth over the second and third toe, more or less. You can rest your hands where you like, and then just flowing back and forth. No particular right or wrong, just feeling your heart space and all across your hip line, awakening to the life that you have. I'll give you about 15 more seconds of play here. Opening up the entire body. Good work, guys. Your heart might start to beat a little fuller, faster. Good. And then slowly we're going to come down. So I'm going to come down all the way to, if you can touch the floor here, like you're kind of like a catcher, you're about to catch the ball, or you can rock side to side, or if that's not accessible to you, you could use your forearms to support you a little higher up. I want to get just a little deeper into the hips, also the ankles, the calves stretch here. This can be quite a bit of a deep stretch, and we're going to be coming down. I'm going to shift this into a guided sort of reflection. And I want you to consider either staying upright here, or you could come to your sit bones, take your feet in front of you, clasp your feet, and just rock around in circles or sway side to side. What would be more meditative to you? So I'll be prompting you through some guided imagery, but feel free to take little movements that are rocking and soothing. So this won't be a stationary meditation where you feel like you have to control the body. Instead, follow the prompts of your body in terms of rocking or leaning or circling, adding the head, whatever you want. Feel free to move as you desire. Maybe the eyes start to close. And the imagination exercise is actually starting now. So feeling your breath, I'm going to ask you to imagine yourself in utero. You're in the womb. You're floating You're making sort of these organic, natural choices that you don't really think about. And you're about in your 26th week of development, which means you're pretty close to being born. Just imagine that. Outside of the womb, there are people who just want to see you. They're excited to get to know you, to love you. You don't really understand that, but you have a sense it will be good out there. You have an equal sense that it's pretty good in here. You have a fully developed circulatory system. You can move your hands and feet and head. And so you do, being curious, interested, open, but not really expecting anything. You receive oxygen and will continue to get oxygen from your umbilical vein, and you're born. You're at ease, content. At this stage in your development, you have option to stretch arms and legs, to shift and roll, and even push up against the walls that hold you. You feel a sense of comfort and even silliness here. Do you want to push or kick? You can hear the sound of your mother's heart. You hear a beat. You also hear your beat. You are not sure the difference between your rhythm and that of your mom, but you're pretty sure there is one. And you will figure it out beat by beat. Notice if your environment is dark or light, has color or texture. At this phase in your development, you have eyes that are working and can discern and orient towards light or away from it. Just notice how you respond to the basics of your world. Your breath continues to be given to you at a pace that is unconcerning and completely natural and unburdened, unencumbered. Finally, consider your spine. Your spine will work to develop for many years after birth. You will need help with understanding how your head weight works for about 2 or 3 months, maybe more. And then many months later, you'll figure out how to sit up and will adapt to do many other activities. Because your spine and the rhythm of you and your life will help you as you go. You are not worried. You will be supported just like you are now. So now bringing yourself back to the adult body that you have and asking yourself the prompt question of, can we bring that spirit of curiosity and interdependence on the words that will come to us next and the words that we have for each other and the body's reaction to this practice, to the next hour or so. Start to feel actual movements in your current hands, your adult hands, your feet, maybe your neck. And then set yourself up in a body position that feels comfortable, natural, and receptive. And I will now hand it over to Rachel to share some wisdom with us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jade, so much. That's an awesome meditation. Yeah, that's one worth going over again. So thank you for that. Yes, as Emily mentioned, I am Rachel Quast and the founder of SHED, where I deal with counseling, health coaching, Reiki, support groups, dealing with eating disorders, trauma, anxiety, depression, and spiritual issues. So I am just so excited to be here with all of you, as well as Trinity Yoga Faith, to do this event together. So we have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to dive right in and start with a stat to build the framework here. So 85% of our beliefs are formed by the age of 8. I say what wires together what fires together wires together. So if there's something hard that you've gone through, some type of trauma, criticism, bullying, and such, the event will actually wire together within your brain to that feeling. So then what ends up happening from that is we all develop what's called core beliefs from that. And so that's why I'm saying that 85% of our beliefs are formed by the age of 8. So that means beliefs about ourselves, about the world, about things, about animals, about God. All of it is, the majority of it is formed by that time. So then we have these perspectives. We all have certain lenses, right? I'm sure you've come across people that have experience the same thing, but come out with a different perspective. So research shows that of these perspectives, 90% of them come from the cortex and the internal processing. So back that up to what I just said about 85% of our core beliefs are formed. So basically, we are operating from the lens of those old core beliefs and then forming our perspectives based on those old core beliefs. Unless we do this kind of work. So that's why I'm so incredibly passionate about this work. I love the idea of helping people unburden, take weights off their shoulders, their life, getting these aha moments, decreasing shame, just trying to understand and be curious about our patterns, ourself, our hurt, our trauma, rather than being condemning toward ourselves with all of this different trauma. So again, the other reason I'm just passionate about this is, we need a sense of self, of how God made us, right? I firmly believe that God has given us all a inner core of self that cannot be altered. It can't be damaged. It can't be taken away. But often we feel like that is the case, right? We feel broken. We feel, why do I do these things, think these things? Why am I keep acting this way when I don't want to? But my viewpoint is that we are unburdening those things, not getting ourself back, because self never left, ever. It's always there. I believe, God in his divine wisdom just knew, he's creator, right? So he knows how to keep that core. And our job is to continue to unburden and find more of that self that God put in there. So that is part of the love of the work that I do with others, and personally too. I may share some things of my own history, but it's a work that I love to do for others, but I continually and probably will never stop doing for myself. So again, that is the goal, is to have this sense of self that God can connect to. And I do also want to honor where everybody is, meaning that if God doesn't work for you, what form of higher power does? And if nothing does at this point work for you, that is completely okay, because I know many have gone through spiritual trauma. And so for me, it's important just to honor that and know that you can still do work, and higher power is always there, assisting and guiding and supporting and loving and keeping us safe. So in that, we do that work to where we have to do the process and the walking, and higher power or God empowers that process. So there is a part on our side that is important to do, and also pretty hard to do, but it's definitely worth it. So I'm going to go into a little bit of how that process is and what we need to do. But I'm going to start, Jade, if you could put up the first slide, trauma and patterns, just for a short bit. I want to first set a foundation for us. It's the chart. There we are. Perfect. So I want you to look at the beginning there is a child. So if you could get a vision in your mind of a child, they are so creative, they are confident, they are definitely very pleased, curious, forgiving little individuals. And we often look at them and marvel, right? And oh, I used to be like that. But again, speaking toward that divine self within that God gave us that can't go away, that is how we were all born. We were all born good, and again, in divine's image. So we all have those traits within us. So that's where our starting point is, right? And so it's so good to keep that in mind, because that's our foundation that we can go back to. Of I'm not broken, I'm not damaged, I still am good and forgiving and confident and all of these things. But to explain how trauma gets in there, so look at the little slide of the wound. So the wound happens to a child. So that can be things like abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, incest, just constantly being criticized, told you're not enough, or being or you're not complimented, or bullying at school, whatever it is, these wounds happen to us. And if you notice, the chart goes over to cry, stomp, play, shake. Those are not the end all be all, but those are just ways that a child processes the hurt that just happened. So if we are able to do that, if we are able to get full attention, what I always say, and with the crying and stomping, playing, talking, then that energy and that trauma will actually leave the body. It's not stored in the body, it's not stored in the brain, because in the child's mind, it's resolved. And so there's no need to store that memory in there, because it's finished. It's completed, and there's no like, oh, be on guard about this. So then the child returns to confident, powerful, happy, forgiving. So now go to the other side. So say you were bullied at school, and you go and tell your parents, and then they're like, oh my, like, that's not even anything big to cry about. Are you kidding? Like, just smile and ignore it. So then, or the child is spanked, or the child expresses their feelings and they're emotionally abandoned or physically abandoned. Then what can happen, or what does happen, is then again, the wiring is formed within, and then patterns, that's the up circle there, then patterns develop, like eating disorders, alcoholism, drug use, people pleasing, explosive anger, isolation. These different patterns form in order to maintain and contain the pain. So these, again, are patterns that we want to look at, not in a critical way, but these patterns were there to actually try to save and to help us. Because if there is too much emotional trauma, literally the body, you can die from it. You can die from shock of it. So naturally built in, we have these different mechanisms that are there to try to actually save us and help us. But then our job is to look at it and go, hey, does this work for me anymore? Is this functioning for me? Yes or no? So that is sort of the framework there of how to explain how those things get set in. So what I want to go to next, let's see here. So we're dealing with the patterns. Okay, so Jade, you can take that slide down, and then we'll just continue a little bit more and then go into some different things. So again, okay, that's how the things get set up, and I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, please write down questions, and we'll get to them at the end with the Q&A if something did not make sense. There is one thing I do want to address, though, because often what I see when working with people is there's often these comments of, yeah, but I wasn't abused, or yeah, but I wasn't raped, or yeah, but you know, why do I have these problems? And so it's so important to look at that trauma is anything that is a break in connection with self, like how God made us to be. When there's a break in that, or we feel like it's not enough, or it's not acceptable to others, that's a break in connection with ourself. And when there is that break in connection, that alone is trauma, because we're not designed to feel that break in something's wrong with me, I'm defected. That's not part of our creation. And so when we are developing these patterns to try to hide that, then that's where that trauma is actually formed. And then we have these patterns to try to hide, right? We put on these masks of, I'm always happy, or I don't have problems, or you know, I'm the person that's always angry, or I'm the person that will always help you, or I'm the person that is the strong one, or whatever mask we put on. We put on these images to others because we're trying to keep ourselves safe. That's really the core, is like we remember the trauma, we remember the hurt, and our brain registers don't ever get there again, don't expose that again, don't be that again, because it creates unsafety, damage, bullying, criticism, abandonment. And so we develop these false sense of selves to portray to the world that we think others are going to like and accept. And some of them in our world are very acceptable, like workaholism, climbing the ladder, being a CEO. You know, there's these different patterns that people have that society goes, that's awesome, that's good, you're going to get rewarded for this. And then there's others that society goes, bad, get rid of, damaging. So, you know, like addiction, or, you know, when I experienced eating disorder. So there's these different things where society says good versus bad. But in reality, if there's a break in self, it's not, I wouldn't even call it good or bad, but I would call it useful or not useful, right? Is it serving me or is it not serving me? And those are the things that we need to take a look at. Okay, make sense? Okay, so part of the purpose of the pattern, like I mentioned, is to try to deal with that. So we want to look at different ways that, let's see here, let's look at time. We want to look at different ways that we can find these patterns. So some ideas are when something feels bigger than the situation. So I'm sure we've all experienced, and others have experienced, right? The, why am I overreacting like this? Or why am I having such a big feeling over something so minor? Or we've seen others do the same thing, like, wow, that didn't seem like a big deal to me, but they seem to be having a pretty big reaction. So again, we don't hand shame over to ourselves, nor do we hand shame over to the other person, but it's a cue of, oh, that might be a wound that I need to look at. Because that's often what happens is a small percentage of the feeling is about the present situation. The majority of a feeling is about what happened in the past that never got dealt with. So the reaction, like the feelings are actually trying to come out and be healed. Our body is always, like I believe God put this divine healing in us of always to heal, to heal, to heal. And so the feelings are that get stored in the body and the brain, they actually want to come out. And so they'll find any opportunity to come out, like, oh, that smells the same. You know, we can sneak out in this one. We're always, again, built for healing and wholeness. So, so then having this big reaction is a cue of, oh, there's a pattern, or, oh, there's a wound. Let me look at that. Some smaller things is like zoning out. If you check out, that is definitely a trauma has been hit or a wound has been hit. The desire to be alone or to isolate. Again, definitely a sign of old trauma, especially if you quote did something bad as a kid and you got sent to your room. Then again, what fires will wire. So then if something you feel shame, the natural response is go be alone, go, you know, you're dangerous, go hide from others, just get to yourself. And inability to express feelings in the moment or express emotion, that's also a sign of trauma. Your body locking. You can, if you're self-aware, you'll kind of feel this sort of tightness, stomach clenching. Again, that's a sign of feelings. Something needs addressing here. And a lack of eye contact. Those are just, I mean, really, this whole presentation is going to be scratching the surface, right? There's no way to get to all of it, but these are just some ideas to hopefully try to trigger some thoughts of, yeah, what do I do? And how could that be an old wound or a pattern that's firing off? So when in pain, sometimes another thing that we do is we run to a specific behavior. So again, you can question yourself on, so if I'm stressed, do I always go toward food? So then again, that's a sign of a wound that you're trying to deal with. So where's the stress coming from? And then back it up, what wound caused that stress? We'll get into this a little bit more later, but again, we're just getting into what's the cue. Often what I see in my office is fear will provoke restricting or just pure refusing food to oneself in a way to try to calm the fear, to try to deaden the fear, to kill the fear, to just numb out to all feelings because there's overstimulation going on. Or feeling of being not enough. There's patterns people jump into of needing to be need to be perfect. Perfectionism runs really high in our society. And again, it's one of those things that gets rewarded. So it's an easy one to slip into as well. Again, those are just some of the ideas to try to tip some of that off. Jade, if you could go put up the psychological needs slide, that would be great. Perfect. So this is another way, just again, to try to dig at pain or wounds and how they are there. So these slides will be offered to you at the end of the presentation, as well as if you want, we can email those to you as well, so you can take some more time to kind of dig into this. But the general idea behind this is these are basic psychological needs that all of us have. And if they were not met, and I'm going to say as a young person, okay, so because again, 85% of our beliefs were formed by the age of 8. So we want to go early because, you know, just like any gardeners out there, you need to get the root or the whole weed will grow back. So these psychological needs are a way to get at the root early in age. When did they first form? So if you ever just think back and scan back on your life of any times that you felt unsafe as a kid, or was unsafety a general feeling that you always felt in your home or at school or in your community. A sense of trust in others, but also in a sense, a trust in self, because that can easily be broken if your decisions were always doubted, criticized, questioned. or if there is this volatile anger from making a decision, that can break a sense of self in a person, because they again form that belief of what I do causes harm or creates these big reactions, and then we start to then distrust ourselves. So this is a basic psychological need of trusting others are trustworthy, and I'm also can trust in myself. A sense of esteem. I like the word worth better than that. I think self-esteem has been overused in the 80s and 90s, and it kind of gets old. But a sense of worth, of an inherent sense of worth, of without being anything, I am worthy and have something to offer, just based on who I am. A sense of independence, a sense of intimacy. And when I say intimacy, I don't mean sexual, I mean intimate as in you can share who you are, your challenges, your things you struggle with, as well as your celebrations. And that's honored and that is respected. And so if something like that is broken, where parents didn't want to hear your feelings, or it was like, oh, again, you're upset again, you're so sensitive, those type of comments start making a young person hide and not want to share or be vulnerable, which then is very, very damaging. And a sense of control, just a healthy sense that you can manage your own feelings and behavior, and you have a healthy, and I'm going to use the word not control, but influence. You have a healthy influence over others. Again, like your ideas, who you are, can actually matters and change someone else's viewpoint. That, again, those are healthy ways. So if you're scanning these needs and thinking about how life was for you in your home, community, school, and were any of these needs broken or damaged or hurt, then that is also a cue of the wound, but also a pattern that may be forming from that. So, so for instance, let's see here. Jade, you can take that screen down. So I like to give just some examples personally, because I believe we all have hurts, right? And just because I'm in the field doesn't mean that there are, I've never had to do the work or still don't have to do the work. I still do. I always love the silly analogy of just because a surgeon knows how to give surgery doesn't mean he can do surgery, he or she can do surgery on oneself. So it's important for me just to be a person that's open and honest and vulnerable as well. So a lot of this work I had to do as a young person. So for example, it was at 11 that I was severe and really deeply entrenched in anorexia, so much so where I literally was on the path to want to die. Like it wasn't a, oh no, if it happens, it literally was like that was my focus, was wanting to die. A lot of these psychological needs for me had been broken and damaged. I was living in a very strict home. There was a right way and a wrong way to do things. There wasn't a gray. And so there was a lot of criticism and control. There was not a lot of praise. And so, and I don't say that to criticize my family, like we all have families that hurt us and are hard. But my family has grown a lot since then. But that was one of the reasons why I became so passionate about that work, is because it saved my life. Like had I not gone into treatment, had I, at 14, I went into inpatient treatment, and had I not done that and learned about feelings and how I'm using all 3 eating disorders to cope with what originally hurt me or the original wounds, then I'm definitely sure I would not be alive today. So that's, again, the importance of this type of work, is not only to to be alive, but to have a full life while we're here. Um, so, so the disorder for me was huge in just like creating this safety bubble around me. It was like nothing could hurt me in a way. I mean, it could, but whenever I felt that pain, I right away went to restricting or exercise or something so that I didn't have to feel that. So it created this really false sense of a bubble around me that you can think or say what you want, but I got this. Like this disorder is my thing and I have it and you can't take it from me. And so it was also helpful in a way to feel like I was in control, because my family took it from me. So this was my thing where I was trying to keep myself alive and going, literally, as I do, have done that work. I realized just how much I use the disorder to, again, not to be critical against myself at all. It was actually saving me from death, and dying within, like, I felt like once I did the work, I felt like, wow, I got in touch with my little girl and really felt that deep sense of my soul is dying here in this household. And this disorder is the thing that's going to keep me alive. And I don't want to go too much into detail, but I really want to just share that in hopes that it triggers things for you, right? Like, again, it doesn't have to be an eating disorder, it doesn't have to be, an addiction. It can just, again, be those small things, of putting on a happy face when you're sad, or, just, oh, that was dumb. Why did I do that? Just, it can be those little small patterns that we can look at, and trace them back to those psychological needs. So hopefully that helps. Again, I apologize. I'm used to doing very long presentations. So to get this in a smaller form is a little bit challenging for me. So again, I hope it just opens up your mind to what is it for me and what are some things that I can think about for myself. So first, what you want to do is what I teach anyway, again, there's many ways to get at it, but I like to start with the feeling. So if something happened and you're noticing a feeling, then you want to identify that feeling. And I stick pretty easy, just to give people simplicity, is mad, sad, afraid, ashamed, hurt. Which of those 5 feelings got pushed? And then there's several different ways that you can go to heal this. So again, I'm just giving overbroad, quick ideas, and then we're going to do just a brief little 5-minute meditation to walk you through something. So one of those things to do is go, oh, what just happened? I have a feeling something got pushed. The question to ask yourself is, what does that remind me of? And the more you do that, like, I'm pretty quick now going to label, like, oh, that got hit and that reminded me of my dad. Okay, that's an old thing. What can I do to work through this present thing? So what did that remind me of? Who did that remind me of? And then that's a way to get in touch with either a part of you that was wounded, or the other phrases I use is that little girl or that little boy that got wounded. And what does he or she have to say about that? What age did he or she experience that? And giving time for that little one to talk. Because again, if we go back to that chart, right? If we didn't get to talk at the age we got wounded, that little girl or boy still needs to talk. He or she still needs to say something, because often what we do as adults, and this is where we get stuck, is we apply our adult mind to the wound and go, that's silly. I shouldn't be upset about that. Why am I acting like this? Logically, I can look at this and say A, B, C, but that's not where the wound got laid in, right? Our adult didn't experience it initially. So we have to let the little one talk in order for that feeling and that wound and trauma to exit out of the body and the brain. So you give this space for him or her without judgment, with so much compassion and understanding that the little one needed in the first place, right? So what was that like for you? And what did you want to say to that person that said that to you? Or what are you needing right now? Is there something you're needing from me as the adult? a form of reparenting to do is adult you talking to the little one, but give that little one a voice, and kind of separate what happened a little bit from yourself so that you can give him or her space to talk. So that's one way. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, great. So that's one way to get at it. Another way to get at it is to isolate that feeling. So that would be seen as like a part of you, right? So the part of you that wants to emotionally eat over something, or the feeling that's going on, that's a part of you that's going on. So then you want to talk to that piece. So a way to get at that then is, again, you start with the feeling. Where is that feeling in my body? Does that feeling, I'm going to go a little slower here with these, but does that feeling, is there an image to it? So say the feeling is sad. Does that, like, and the sadness is resonating, we'll say it's in the chakra dealing with connection, right? So it's in the chest. Is there an image that's laying in your chest? And sometimes people see colors, they see an image, they see nothing. So there's just different ways, but if there is an image or color or sound there, what is that? And again, this is a part I'm going to walk through with you to do on your own, but I just want to explain it first. So then you would let the feeling or that part have a voice. So does that sadness have a voice? Does sadness want to say something? And then oftentimes what happens in this is, like, people will start emoting, which is good. We want, again, feelings are energy. We want the energy out. Or life stories and events will start coming up. And then that's where I know to go to that life story, because that's the old thing that got hit, was that event, the bullying, the time your mom said, like, oh, you look ugly, why are you wearing that, or whatever happened. That feeling will often draw back to an event, and then we work with the event. So does the feeling or that part want to say something, and to whom does it want to say it to? And how does, as we were talking about that divine created self, that divine made, God made, does self want to say anything to that part, so to that sadness? Or it's a great way to bring in higher power or God, is once that image is there, or that feeling is there, and then the event comes up, you're sitting there with, say again, mom, with that criticism. What does higher power or God come in, and what does God say to that? Say you were 8. What does God say to that 8-year-old and what your mom just said? Bring in the spirit and God into it. And sometimes people get great healing that way as also. Just so many ways to get at this, which is awesome. So I apologize for the quickness, but I'm hoping that I can have you guys find something yourself. So if you choose to, you don't have to, you can mute me if you don't want to do this exercise, or you can choose to do this quick 5-minute with me. And so if you choose to do that, I just want to invite you to get your feet grounded, get your body grounded. So however it is, sit in a place where you feel connected to chair, connected to ground, connected to earth. And then take 3, if you're willing, just 3 big breaths. And big meaning chest goes out, diaphragm comes out, and society tells us to suck our belly in, but you got to push the belly out to breathe deep. So chest, diaphragm, belly out, and do that 3 times as deep as you can to where you're completely filled up with air. So if you're willing, I'm just going to invite you to think of, say, if there's a wound that you can think of that popped up for you when you were young that you know has been quite repetitive, that you cycle through, that comes up in your life a lot. Pick that, or pick a feeling. Is there a feeling that you feel like's been coming up a lot that you would like to deal with? So then, as I mentioned, find where that feeling is in your body. So what is tense? What is buzzing? What feels tight? What feels nauseous? What's going on with, where is that feeling in your body? Does that image, or I'm sorry, does that feeling have an image, a sound, color? What does that feeling or part want to say? Give it a voice. Let it know that it's welcome, that it can't say anything wrong. Everything that it has to say is good and okay. There's no judgment. What does that feeling have to say? Who does it want to say it to? Is there an event or an experience that's popping up in your head? Who does that feeling want to say it to? What age is that feeling or that part? Does the age pop in to your head? Do you see a certain age of yourself in reference to that feeling? What does that feeling or that part need from you as the adult? Does it need a hug? Does it need to know that you're not going to abandon it too, like others did? Does it need affirmation? Does it need to know that you're going to keep it safe from harmful people? What does that part or that feeling need? And then show that feeling or that part, show it acceptance, thank it for speaking, thank it for being vulnerable and showing up. Let it know that it's always welcome, that you will not shame it, that it was brave for coming and for speaking. Let it know that it's welcome and unlike it may have felt in the past, that it's okay. And when you're ready, you can start wiggling around and opening your eyes. Take your time. If you're in the middle of a process, feel free to stay there. If something came up for you, I just want to encourage you to possibly journal about it, write it down. But I also want to say that if you know you've had some type of trauma, whether it's big or small, doesn't matter, that it's really not work to do alone, because that can affirm the feeling of needing to be self-reliant, needing to do it alone, nobody cares. And sometimes that can actually exacerbate the trauma and add to the trauma. So I just want to encourage people that this is really not work to do in isolation. So whether it be someone that you can trust, that you know is not a gossiper and that is gracious and kind, talk to that type of person. Or if you feel like they don't, you need further work, like this is where counseling would fit in, because again, it just has to be safe and handled with so much love and care, because we don't want to do this type of work alone. So the last question I did want to add in there, which we don't have time to get into, but when you're in that memory, again, is bringing God into that, or higher power, or a memory of like an ocean or something. And, what does higher power God have to say about what you experienced? And so you can add that in your own time as well. But I thank you so much, everyone, for just listening and being here, being willing to walk through this. And if you need me to do further work, I'm happy to do that. Just reach out to me, or find a trusted friend to process things with. And yes, we can process, these things with God, but I feel we need God with skin on also. There's a time to pray and deal with it with God, but I think that can also be a pattern where we just go to God and nobody else. And that keeps us not having to be vulnerable and isolated. So it's just a good old mix of all three, in there. So many blessings to all of you guys and your journeys, and God's healing upon all of you and the work that you choose to do in the future. So, and then from there, I will pass it on to Emily.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I simply could not write notes fast enough. That was so rich and so awesome and so amazing. And I appreciate your vulnerability, because there is so much power and purpose in our stories. And through your bravery in sharing that, it really easily allows for us to go there for ourselves. And I love that you so beautifully created some foundation for us to start going into those places and start the self-healing process. I loved your framework. So thank you so much. For all of you who are still on this call, if you are in a place where you are feeling like something just sat with you and you want to take this time to process, do what Rachel said, continue in prayer, continue in journaling, whatever you want to use this time for. We have still about 20 minutes of our workshop, and I have about 15 minutes of restorative yoga and just a time of prayer that I want to offer. But you can really feel the freedom to use this time for whatever it is you need. And if you feel like you'd want to, again, perhaps something triggered for you and you want additional prayer or additional assistance or anything like that, also feel free to comment in the chat as well, because we are all, this is safe space and we're all here to support one another wherever they're at now. So we just did a huge bout of sitting. So now I invite you into a standing position where we'll begin some more of our restorative movement and practice. Finding a standing position and maybe taking a few moments here just to kind of shake out the legs, or shake out any kind of body region that feels like it needs a little bit of space, movement, and blood flow. And then eventually coming into a standing position with feet hip-width distance apart. You can allow the arms just to hang on either side of the body. And I invite you to either leave eyes open, maybe gazing just softly at something out in front of you, or maybe even closing the eyes, drawing inward. Tuning into the body and just noticing how you feel after just our time here together this morning. I'll be offering and guiding a body scan and a little bit of a grounding exercise in just a moment. I'll be guiding your awareness to various parts of the body and inviting you to either release or activate different parts. And we'll begin just by aligning our bodies in a more upright, neutral standing posture, lifting gently from the crown of the head, positioning our head over our hearts over the pelvis. Bringing awareness to the forehead and releasing anything we're holding within this part of the body. Softening the eyes, relaxing the jaw, maybe even allowing the jaw to softly open and the tongue to float to the roof of the mouth. Releasing shoulders away from the ears, opening through the heart. Noticing the subtle rise and fall of the chest and the belly with every breath in and every breath out. Drifting our awareness down to the legs and activating the muscles of the thighs, gently inviting the knees into a little bit more of extension, but not fully locking out through the joints. Just activating so that we can feel a little bit more grounded and rooted through the legs. And then I invite you to find your center of balance by gently raising up onto your toes and then shifting weight back onto the heels, lifting the toes up off the ground. Sequencing through that a few times until you can find yourself in a place where your feet Feel grounded and rooted. And returning to stillness here. Noticing how you feel connected to the ground, to the earth. And maybe even noticing the energy between each one of us here on this call. I invite you now to gently sweep the arms up overhead, reaching tall. And then hands to touch within the center and lower down towards the heart for prayer. Maybe even taking the thumbs and gently resting them against the chest wall. I invite you to begin to deepen the breath, inhaling through the nose. And maybe as you exhale, exhaling audibly through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. And then audibly exhaling through the mouth. 2 more times on your own timing and breath. And then slowly releasing the hands away from the chest wall. I invite you now to engage the abdominals and begin to bend forward from the waist. Coming into a forward fold, releasing the hands to the earth, tucking the chin in towards the chest and allowing the head to hang. Taking a moment to feel the blood rush to the head. Feeling a deep stretch into the back body, into the back of the legs. Maybe you hang here in stillness. Maybe you bend the elbows, grasping for opposite arms. And experimenting, if you'd like, with some gentle movement. Maybe rocking side to side here from the torso, or even shaking the head left and right, up and down. Whatever serves you here in this moment, here in this time. You've opted for movement. I invite you back into the stillness here. If you find yourself in ragdoll arms, I invite you to release the hands back down to the mat. And then beginning to step the feet back ever so slightly, coming into a downward facing dog shape. Pedaling out the feet here for a few moments, deepening the stretch into the back body. And when you're ready, slowly dropping the knees down to the mat, entering into tabletop position on hands and knees. Untucking the toes and allowing the tops of your feet just to rest on the mat. Orienting the body so that the hands are beneath the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips. I invite you into stillness here, feeling your hands, feeling the knees rooted deeply down into the floor, into the earth. Feeling present in this moment, feeling grounded, feeling rooted. You are safe here. Taking a moment now to drift awareness back to the breath, syncing movement with breath. Inhaling, lifting head and tailbone here, sagging through the belly, coming into our cow posture. And then exhale, head and tailbone sink underneath. We arch through the back here, coming into cat posture. Inhale, head and tailbone lift, belly sags. We find our way back to cow. And then exhale, head and tailbone tuck underneath. We arch to the back. If this feels good for you, I invite you to explore movement and breath, sequencing between these two postures a few more times on your own timing, on your own breath. slowly, when you feel ready, returning to neutral tabletop and gently sending the hips back towards the heels, entering into child's form. Tucking the chin in towards the chest, your forehead rests onto the mat. The arms can extend out long here, and we find rest in this posture. Maybe you return your attention towards the breath, deepening the breath here. Maintaining contact with the mat with the hands, engaging the abdominals and slowly drawing yourself back up. Continuing to engage through the abdominals and shifting the hips back forward. Slowly bending the elbows down, lowering the belly and the chest down towards the earth. I invite you to slide your forearms forward, gently lifting through the head, through the heart here. Breathing deeply, opening through the heart space. Noticing how you feel. Maybe bringing awareness to the contact with the floor that's occurring between your hands, at your belly, your hips, your legs, the tops of your feet. Or maybe bringing awareness to the body and how it feels as you breathe in and open through the heart and the chest. And now, if you'd like, I invite you into a different variation. This time, taking your forearms and stacking them so that they become parallel to the top of your mat or the top of whatever surface you're laying on. And then slowly tucking the chin in towards the chest, resting the forehead atop the forearms. Finding rest here. Drawing awareness to the breath if that helps you. And then slowly from this position, bending the knees here and beginning to gently windshield wiper the legs side to side. Drawing awareness to any sensation that's occurring within your lower back, the front of your hips, the tops of the thighs. And slowly allowing the lower legs to fall all the way over to one side, releasing the hands and using the upper body to help you to turn over onto your back. Slowly coming to lie onto your back. And it's here that I now invite you to draw both knees in towards the chest, rocking side to side, massaging the lower back. Returning to the stillness and drawing both knees together. And gently extending the knees, sending both legs up into the air and flexing the feet towards you, coming into this restorative, modified legs up the wall position. You can bring your hands to the backs of your thighs to offer some gentle support. You can find stillness here, maybe drawing your awareness to the sensation of some of the blood that's recirculating down the legs, maybe feeling a little bit of some gentle resistance here from just the hamstring muscles of the backs of the thighs. And if you'd like to initiate some gentle movement here at the ankles, you can do so by flexing the feet towards the ceiling and then back down towards you. Maybe even experimenting with ankle circles, one way and then the other. If you've opted for movement, I invite you back to the stillness here. And then slowly, ever so slowly, bending the knees and returning the feet back to the mat. Our knees remain bent here, but I invite you to heel toe the feet so that the knees are a little bit wider than hip width distance apart. Our arms can come out to either side into a T, and we'll windshield wiper the knees side to side, stretching into the hips and into the lower back. We'll take one more repetition each side. And then returning to stillness, you can heel toe the feet so that the knees are now hip width distance apart. The arms can return to either side of the body. And I invite you to gently rotate the palms so that they're facing down on the mat. We'll engage the abdominals, drawing belly in towards the spine. We'll gently lift the hips up, coming into bridge pose here, lifting the hips up high. And then slowly, ever so slowly, releasing back down. And gently extending the leg out long, one leg at a time. Entering into our final relaxation pose of Shavasana. Your arms remain on either side of the body. If it feels good to leave the palms facing down, you can leave them facing down. Maybe it just feels more natural and relaxed to turn the palms facing up. That's totally fine too. Your legs can remain in whatever position is comfortable to you. Maybe you even rotate the feet towards the outside corners of your mat or your space wherever you're lying. This will allow you to relax through the hips. If you haven't already, maybe you close the eyes, drawing your awareness back inward, entering into this new, perhaps calm, quiet, still space of the body. Leaving you space here to dwell and relax. As I offer a final prayer here. And this is a prayer that is based off a scripture reading of Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 6. It's also inspired just based on some things that I could feel the Spirit speaking to me during our time here together. And I could feel the Spirit speaking to me and stating that it's okay to feel exactly how we feel. It's okay to feel mad, to feel sad, to be ashamed, to feel hurt. But could we let God into this? In every situation that we experience these feelings, would we turn to prayer and make our requests known to God? In doing so, God, would you empower our healing process? Would you restore our safety? Would you restore our trust? Would you restore our self-esteem and our worth, that we could have the freedom to be just who you created us to be? Would you restore our independence and our free will? Would you create safe places for intimacy and connection with you and others? And would you redeem and restore our ability to control through self-awareness and our ability to self-manage our feelings and behavior and exertion of influence on others? When we turn to you, God, would you do all of this? And also, in exchange for this, would you grant us the peace, your peace, that transcends all understanding? And above all else, would you guard our hearts and our minds? Amen. So now just giving you a few moments of quiet and stillness to commune with yourself, to commune with God, to commune with the Spirit. You are safe, you are loved, you are held here in this moment, in this space. What is it that you have to say? And what is it that God has to say to you? Leaving about a minute, minute and a half for you to dwell in this space here now. slowly inviting you out of this meditative, prayerful state if you'd like. Otherwise, if you find yourself at a good moment where you just want some extended time to commune with yourself, with God, with the Spirit, wherever you find yourself, you have freedom to do so now. But I just wanted to alert you that we have come to the end of our workshop time here. And now what we would like to do is just kind of open it up for a time of sharing, for a time of questions, whatever it is anybody would like to use this time and space for. We're here. So feel free to unmute and share, or stay in whatever state you currently find yourself in. This is your time, your space, your moment, and we are here to be of support to you. Does anyone have anything that they want to comment on or share from this time? Feedback?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Beth.
Hi, Emily. Well, of course, I had no idea what this was going to be really about and, the format. I really appreciate the questions, why am I overreacting? And the clues of, that a big reaction to something is a clue, to zoning out is a clue, the desire to isolate is a clue. That those clues are a hint that, there's something wrong, and the something wrong is only 15% of the now. That it's very much an old wound, a hint to an old wound. So I really appreciate the framework that was shared today. I will use it. And I have been living, my reactions are very much about, zoning out, numbing out, not feeling, because I have felt powerless to do anything with what I do feel. And that has caused great havoc within my body and within myself, and the result of in my life. So I really appreciate the work that was presented today. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to honor your bravery and sharing, and honestly, bravery and just taking some of that in, because even that takes a lot of strength, right? Just to even say, oh, wow, this is how I've been dealing with it. So even that takes a lot of strength and bravery. So I just want to honor that in you, because sometimes when we're wounded, we feel, like you said, powerless, right? So
yeah.
I thank you for sharing that. And I had another thought, but I forgot it. But okay.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you for your work and sharing it today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Said, and thank you so much for just the workshop, the meditations, Rachel, just the things that you went through with us. I only can imagine how difficult it was for you to narrow it down to such a short period of time. And I've been in my own recovery for a number of years now too, from childhood trauma. I didn't have the opportunity of understanding it or owning it or having anything to do with it until I was in my mid 50s. But I've learned that it's never too late to heal. So a lot of the things that you said were very pertinent in my own healing journey. And I'm just curious, Rachel, if you are familiar with the 12-step program for children of adult alcoholics and dysfunctional families.
As in Al-Anon?
No, as in ACA.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
for sure. I am familiar with that and all of the 12 step. So
Yeah. So that, I mean, what you did was just, you mirrored so much that is taught in the ACA groups and in the book
Hmm.
that I feel is just so important. You know, in my mind, you really did touch on the main aspects of what healing looks like, and having a group, if if they're around. I was fortunate to have a couple around me of people who they get what's going on, like what you described. And so that whole point of isolation and staying out of isolation, it was really helpful for me to have a group that kept me from isolating in my healing. So thank you for your encouragement about all of that.
yeah, you're welcome. I'm not so familiar with ACA as in developing stuff around it. It was from other trainings I've had. So it's really cool that it does mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've heard more about Al-Anon. I don't know if they're, but that's more of what I'm more familiar with than ACA. But yeah, it's, I think what you said as far as it's important to have a group, and that is vital. I know for my recovery, when I went in treatment at 14, lifesaver, like absolute, was a huge piece of my recovery. So a group is very powerful. Mhm. And Beth, if you don't mind, I did remember the thought. Can I make a comment based on something you said? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay, so you mentioned feeling powerless, and so I just want to invite you, if you're willing, to look at that powerless is also that feeling or a wound that often joins with the pain. So it's interesting that what I've found in practice is that it's not just the feeling that comes with it. It's feelings with like a bubble of beliefs that circle it. You remember those maps that we did as kids, right? Those thought maps. Like there's an idea and then put all these brainstorm ideas around it. That's kind of how I see feelings, is like there's the feeling and then there's these spring of beliefs that surround it that keep it locked in its place. And powerlessness is one of those that does. Because when we experience, say, the trauma or the hurt, we also experienced possibly a family system that did not allow you to go out of the system and get help. And so that feeling of being trapped within the family system, the dynamics when a part of our so smart, intuitive little self knows like something's not right here. But then gaslighting and all these different things happen to keep it locked in place. And then we assume, well, I'm powerless, and it must be me that's wrong. And so those are some beliefs that often surround the feeling. And so I guess my invitation is to get at not only the wound, but how did the powerlessness get set in too? And where is that in your body, and do the whole same process with that. So powerlessness, feeling alone, are some really biggies that travel with it.
Thank you.
Well, great.
So
Well,
Rachel, it's Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. I just wanted to get your thoughts on something. I'm a little uncomfortable sharing with the recording on though. Would we be able to turn that off, or, I mean, otherwise I can
Turn
just
that
keep
off.
on the surface.
Is that okay, Rachel? It's
Can you
true.
pause it, or?
I believe so. Hang on a second, ladies. You can pause it.
what
I've
does
just
the
been
group
recording
think?
back
Does the group have anything else? I want everyone to feel like they've had a sufficient amount of time to share. And yeah, this is safe space, and we encourage and appreciate vulnerability. So if anyone has anything else they'd like to share or add, feel free. Otherwise, yeah, we can certainly wrap things up. And we also, like, we're going to put our contact information on here. Please know that anyone can reach out to us at any time. We want to contact people to assist and just be a positive support to you in any way. So Jade had Rachel's information up there. And then this is Trinity Yoga Faith's information. We're going to be leading more virtual as well as in-person yoga and meditation events. And the best way to kind of keep in contact with the rest of our stuff is via our website and our social media. You go to www.tyfmke.com. We have a classes tab and all of our events are listed there. And then we also promote them on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find us at TYFMKE. And then also listed on our website and social media is our contact information. We would love to hear back from you, just any feedback you would have, or if you're in need of reaching out or asking for prayer, we are certainly here for you to support you in any way. And then also if there's a certain topic or certain type of event that you would like to see being offered, we would love and appreciate your advice and feedback on that as well. So yes, and then also this is a no-fee donation-based workshop. So this is our gift of just appreciation and love and wanting to be support for you. And you can, if you're interested in donating to support the works of Trinity Yoga Faith and Rachel through SHED, what I'll do is in the chat right now, I'm going to put our website. So Trinity Yoga Faith's website, it's www.tyfmke. And you can go to our donate tab. So www.tyfmke.com/donate. We are accepting donations over Venmo and PayPal, and you can find the links to do that directly that way. So we thank you for attending this, and we thank you for supporting us if you feel led and called to do so. And we hope that you enjoyed our time and our space here together. And I just thank you all for being here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing and being present. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the space to begin some healing.
Yes.
Thanks,
I'm so
Beth.
excited to be here.
I'm curious as to how you will be able to make the slides available to us for the recording.
Yes, I think Emily has the registration emails, I believe, and then she can give those. How would you like to do that, Emily? Would you?
Yeah, so we do. I think everyone who registered for the event was on the call today. But I think if you want the slides, we could probably, Rachel, you could email those people directly if they maybe put their emails in the chat. So that way we know who wants to hear from us again.
What about those that logged off that may want them? But if you want it, send your, put your email up and I will email the slides to you directly for sure.
I'm going to sign off, but thank you, ladies, so much for doing this.
Thanks
and for
for
putting this on.
coming.
God bless you.
Yeah, you bet.
Hi, Dana. Thank you for being on the call today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Bob the dog.
Good dog.
What does Bill have to say? Did he,
Bill says he loves everybody. And
that's a good attitude.
he is just here to give love and healing and joy and mouth to mouth.
Oh, he is a ham. I just love him.
Yes. Amy, I can drop off Bill for you anytime.
I'd love to go for a walk with the two of you.
Absolutely. We're down like all the time. Bill heard that and he's going to be taking you up on that.
That is so
It's like, I
funny.
heard the W word.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing, Amy. I like have been thinking of you and thinking of you a lot. Actually, you've been on my heart, and like I just want you to know that I personally am here for you. I would love to spend time and go for a walk and do all of that kind of stuff with you. If you ever are up for it, just please reach out to me.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Should I go ahead and stop recording, guys, and close this out? Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone. Blessings.